Disclaimer. I am a law student, and the legal information provided is not legal advice. For that, please hire an attorney. Hi! Let's begin with a hypothetical. Let's say that we have a trans YouTuber, all right? And let's say, this is an allusion to me, don't worry. And let's say that this trans YouTuber has, not necessarily as expressed to other people, but has the goal of trying to normalize trans people, the existence of trans people in society, as much as possible, by any means necessary. Okay? And let's say that in the course of doing this, this trans YouTuber ends up making a couple arguments, all right? Or rather, a lot of them, but a couple in particular that we're going to be talking about here. And let's say that a lot of these arguments end up going towards defining what is transphobic, okay? And let's say that she ends up usually coming down the side when someone comes under attack for being transphobic, that she is often on the side saying that the person is not. All right? Now that's where we're starting from. Now let's also say that the same person, the same trans YouTuber, in the course of making these arguments, ends up making a lot of the same arguments made by people who would go out of their way and constantly argue to invalidate her and other trans people's existence. Question. By making the same kinds of arguments as those people who would see to have society believe that this trans YouTuber is not who she makes herself out to be, a woman, do you think that her making those same arguments in fact furthers the goal of normalizing trans people in society? Hey everyone, how's it going? Blaire White, I presume? Well, hey, maybe it's a good time to get into the first segment. So in case people are not aware, something that I've been trying to do a lot more recently is I've been trying to have a lot of other content creators come on to my show to talk about various issues that I want to discuss. Normally I would do them alone, but hey, collaboration is awesome. In unity and on the left and solidarity and all of that good stuff, right? And so this week we actually have a full we have a full schedule, all right? And we got to get through it because I want to get everyone in and I want to get everyone out. We got an hour for each. And so for our first subject, we're going to be talking about J.K. Rowling, Blaire White, and one other person that we'll be getting into. But we have a guest. So without further ado, our first guest for tonight, some of you might know him, one of our up-and-coming video essay boyos here on the left, makes really good content, member of my Discord, cool all-around person, Lonerbox. So let's go ahead and bring them into the call and let's start chatting. Hello, Lonerbox. Can you hear me?
Oh shit. Yeah, hello.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm very good. How are you?
I am living. Listen, this week has been let me make sure. Interviewee, got you. Yeah, this week has been crazy for me. But fortunately, I've gotten through basically all the work that I've wanted to do. So I'm ready to stream tonight. But hey, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience?
I'm Lonerbox. I make video essays about usually just whatever was on my mind at the time. Generally covering racism, xenophobia, strange right-wing theories about Africa. And yeah, it's been about 4 months now, and it's been quite good.
That is crazy. How many subscribers do you have at this point?
Let me have a look. 21,000.
Well, you're
No, 27,000. Sorry.
27. All right, 27,000. You're making a name for yourself. Hey, you're getting out there. But that's awesome.
Yeah, I got quite lucky. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. That's great. So thank you so much for coming on. But yeah, so to introduce the subject a little bit more to everyone, there are going to be a couple videos that we're going to be looking at. Now I should be able to share my screen. All right. So yeah, our first boyo, we got Sargon of Akkad. Let's introduce the video title. So the first video, Sargon of Akkad, J.K. Rowling turns trans people into serial killers. It's quite an interesting title that we got to start off there. Very, very catchy, very, very in your face and all that. So yeah, I don't know. If you're ready, then if you have any preliminary thoughts, then you can share them. Otherwise, I'm looking to just get straight into the video. I want to get into the meat and potatoes of it.
Yeah, no, let's go for it. Let's let him speak.
All right, let's see what he got.
We defend J.K. Rowling quite a lot on this channel, which is remarkable because I am in no way a fan of J.K. Rowling's work.
Oh no, I can't hear.
Never read a Harry Potter book.
What's happening there?
Wait, you can't hear?
No, I can't hear your stream. The volume's up.
Wait, do you have me? Hold on. Right-click on me and see if you have me muted or something.
Let's have a look. That would be here. No, you're not muted. Check here. Well, I can obviously hear you through the call.
Yeah, but the video.
Let's have a look. Yeah, no, the volume's way up.
I'm too old for that.
You're not able to hear this?
It wasn't my generation.
Oh, let's see this. Yeah, stream volume's all the way up.
Chat on the call part. Riley screen share, rather. Come get your pot. Right-click on Riley stream, see if she's... check your audio settings. So go down to the left, user settings.
Yep.
Voice and video.
Okay.
All right, what do you have for the output device and the input device?
It's everything. It's just my interface. I can change this actually. Yeah, no, it's all working. I can hear beeps and everything.
And I've never watched the films.
And you can't hear this? All right, hold on. I'm going to try one more thing.
Okay.
We're going to figure this out, damn it. Go live. All right.
Complete film.
How about now?
And it's fine.
What?
Yeah, there he is.
Oh, so we're finally good. All right, I'll edit this out I'll edit this out in post. It's fine. All right, we're getting into it. Basically, all he said is we defend J.K. Rowling pretty frequently, so that should tell you a lot about the kind of person that we're dealing with. All right, let's get into it.
Fine. I don't hate it. I don't like it. I simply don't care about it, and I don't care about anything else that she's written. But J.K. Rowling has decided, as she did back in June, but has done
turn up the speed a little bit.
Often prior to this, to weigh in on the culture war around the definition of what a woman is. And this is an agenda that's being pushed by radical left intersectionalists. We call them critical theorists.
The radical left pushing this theory of what a woman is. I always gotta love the posturing of this, because mind you, literally, all that we're doing is kind of following the academic consensus on what it means to be a woman, right? That's all that it is, right? There's no radical left kind of ideological agenda behind this. That's complete speculation and posturing. It's just kind of what academia is saying nowadays, you know? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a very pathologizing kind of approach, but yeah, that's the very...
Yeah, it's just kind of right. It's an argument without substance. I mean, so far it's not too much. I don't want to make too much of a deal about this. It's just something that I noticed.
Who are trying to deconstruct the categories of man and woman, and then down right way to sex. And so now biological sex is no longer a real thing. And so...
Nope. Holy shit. All right, hold on. He's made this argument before. We don't have to get into it right now, because right now, it's a simple rebuttal. No one is saying that biological sex doesn't exist. I said this, if people want to see the specific rebuttal that I had to this when he responded to Lindsay Ellis, and Riley J. Dennis. I have a previous video on that. People want to go see that. But basically, the TLDR is no one is saying that biological sex doesn't exist. It's just that it exists on the spectrum, a bimodal distribution more specifically, and it's not binary. That's it. No one is saying it doesn't exist. It's a complete straw man.
J.K. Rowling has come out and made her defense of it. If sex isn't real, there's no same-sex attraction. If sex isn't real, the lived reality of women globally is erased. I know and love trans people, but erasing the concept of sex removes the ability of many to meaningfully discuss their lives. It isn't hate to speak the truth. She carries on this argument, but it's a perfectly cogent.
So the thing about like this J.K. Rowling tweet is that like it basically encapsulates the same problem that he does. Both of them are responding to imaginary positions, right? If sex isn't real, there's no same-sex attraction. Well, yeah, no one's saying that sex isn't real. Also, like same-sex attraction, like historically, like that's been used as a way to try and like negatively posture like LGBT people as basing their identity, like their identities purely based off of like their sexual attraction, right? Or their sexual function, right? Like it is like fundamentally like if you are like to be gay is to be attracted to someone of the same gender, right? Like it doesn't really like this is kind of like a straw man, and also is like fighting like it's fighting against an imaginary position because no one is saying that sex isn't real, and also it's relying on like a faulty understanding of what it means to be like LGBT, right? If sex isn't real, and then the lived reality of women, yeah, this is also just like posturing that like, oh, you know, well, this is erasing womanhood, and it's like no, there's no erasing of womanhood. It's just like broadening the understanding of what it is to be a woman. Yeah.
And accurate argument. There is such a thing as sex. Biological sex is a real, although imperfect, thing that exists. It's
I gotta love that, right? Like he's gotta acknowledge that like the model that he uses, specifically as far as I'm aware, he uses the gamete model of sex, right? Which is outdated, which like he has to acknowledge that it's imperfect because like because like he knows that if like anyone pushes back on him, and mind you, plenty of people have, like the model doesn't stand up to scrutiny, right? And so like literally he acknowledges here, like he just blatantly acknowledges that like he holds this position even though it's not logically consistent, right? Even though it goes against like the prevailing scientific consensus. Like he acknowledges it. He's just like, oh no, well, I really want to keep this position. I just really like it. I just personally like it. That's
Sargon
not
he does have a very good way of agreeing with all the science when it's presented to him, and still weaseling in a way to think he's countering it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed. Did you ever watch the debate he had maybe a year ago? Him and Destiny talking about sexual identity.
Oh no, I didn't.
It's really good. It's basically Sargon just getting kind of bullied down into the position of why he thinks it's trying to make a utilitarian argument for why he believes there's a problem with calling trans women real women. And his have you ever seen him getting eventually kind of pushed back into this position where it's just
I mean, I know that he's made the position. I know that he's made the position that that it's somehow more preferable because of like I know that he's made an argument I've observed before that, oh, well, it might be something that some people might prefer because, like, you know, there might be some women who don't want trans women in women's spaces, even though there's actually evidence to show that really most people don't actually care. Like, most cis women, like, prevailingly, like, don't care about trans women being in women's spaces. That's a minority position. But I know that he's made that position. I know he's made the position that it would just be easier to keep the old model because that's totally not the sunk cost fallacy. I've definitely heard him, like, essentially, when he gets pushed back on the super hard, just make an argument like, well, I just prefer this model, right? And like, mind you, models, like scientific models don't have like inherent scientific validity. They're just like ways to be able to discuss what is empirically observable phenomena, right? Like everyone has XY chromosomes. It's just a matter of like which model is best at kind of like posturing that or like framing that in like relative to the rest of like someone's sexual identity, right? It used to be that like a binary model of sex was preferable based on what we knew about sex back then. But like as we discover more and we discover that sex is a lot more complicated, well, a different model seems to be where the scientific community is overwhelmingly going. But he's just like, no, I just really want to keep the old model. I just really want to keep it. It's just
the appeal to Darwin. You ever heard of that?
Yeah, no, I've heard of it. Yeah, I've looked into that.
That's just so like, because Darwin, someone who changed views on science based on what was newly discovered at the time, more than anyone else.
Yeah.
Like,
no,
Charles
I mean, like,
Darwin's not the kind of guy to just hang on to a 200-year-old idea. Otherwise, we wouldn't have Charles Darwin.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. You know, like he essentially just makes like an appeal to like ethos, right? Like just a pure appeal to authority. Like, oh, well, this is a Darwinian model of sex, and clearly, if Darwin came up with it, well, it must be credible, right? And you're exactly right. You know, like it basically relies on this assumption that like we have basically learned nothing about the nature of biological sex in like 200 years since whenever Charles Darwin was fucking alive, right? So I don't know, I don't know. I really want to, like, I know that in the recent Creationist Cat video, like, there was a little bit of an invite that he should debate me. I'm still waiting on it. I'm still waiting on it. I put the invite out when I originally covered him. I feel like it would be a really good chat. I feel like it would be a really good chat. But let's not meander on the point. We have a lot of ground to cover.
I don't know if you call it process, perhaps, but it is a thing that exists, and we don't need to further justify it. We have seen it with our own eyes, we live it in our own selves, and just because some people don't, that doesn't mean that we don't.
Wait, is he literally just saying? Hold on. I need to rewind this a little bit. I need to hear that argument again.
We have seen it with our own eyes, we live it in our own imperfect thing that exists. It's I don't know if you call it process, perhaps, but it is a thing that exists, and we don't need to further justify it. We have seen it with our own eyes, we live it in our own selves, and just because some people don't, that doesn't mean that we don't.
His argument, hold on. This is some galaxy brain shit. He's literally arguing biological sex exists because it exists. And we don't have to justify it. We just know it to be true, right? This is the most galaxy brain, like, circular logic I've ever fucking heard. How do people take Sargon of Akkad fucking seriously? He's literally just assuming his way into the conclusion without justifying it whatsoever. I'm sorry.
Very a priori appeal. Yeah, because I've seen him try to, when he was talking to Destiny about this, he was trying to give, like, real world examples of why it's damaging to allow trans women to call them real women.
Mm-hmm.
And he said it was because it disrupts the biological imperative of women to have children. And then obviously it's, what about if infertile women, are they not real women?
Yeah, exactly.
Eventually he's explaining this scenario. I thought it was so bizarre. He was talking about if you're on a date with a trans woman and you're sitting there because dating is only functional for reproduction, then you're getting deceived. And that was his whole argument, was that it might lead to people who accept the breaking down of the gender binary to effectively just decrease their chances of procreating, because they're going to be on dates with trans people who they think are fertile, and they're going to get, like, lumped into these relationships without finding out that the person they're expecting to produce children with is not fertile, and
I'm sorry, I'm just, like, amazed at this, because I think I've heard him make similar arguments before. I've heard him make similar arguments that, like, there's this, like, I've heard him make this biological imperative argument, which is completely, like, I'm sorry, I think it's a pretty normal thing to say that, like, most people do not go around in society thinking about, like, someone else's reproductive capabilities, right? Or, like, what genitals someone has, right? Like, I think it's a pretty easy thing to sell that, like, that's not something that goes through most people's minds when they're, like, first meeting someone or first learning about someone's identity, right? Like, that's not a normal thing that most people think about in society. And, like, extending that to dates, he's arguing that the only reason that people date, or the primary reason that people date, is for, like, furthering a reproductive function. Like, what the fuck? I'm sorry, that's just so, like, it's got so many levels of fucked up in it, because it just assumes that, like, there's no other main reason to go on a date. I'm sorry, but I've been on a number of dates for, like, a lot of different reasons. And, like, I'm a pretty gay person, right? I've been on a lot of dates with a lot of people who I could not biologically reproduce with, and I can say they went over very well. Most of the time, those have gone over exceptionally well. So yeah, to say that, like, that somehow, like, those aren't, like, valid dates or whatever, like, I feel like that's just, like, complete. I feel like that just flops on its face,
Well, here's my theory. I think before he did YouTube, Sargon was on a date. Sargon of Akkad, that was his Tinder profile name.
Oh,
he
my
ends
God.
up on a date with a trans woman. He's sitting there across from her, and they're getting into what do you want for the future. And then Sargon says, "Well, I want to hopefully have children one day." And then trans woman says, "Whatever, I would too. I am infertile though." And then this is where Sargon's taken aback. It's like, "But I thought your profile said you were a woman,
a biological female."
Well, yeah, but no, she says I'm a trans woman, and then well, that's not women in the Darwinian sense, is it? You should have maybe presented yourself in your profile.
And then she walks off and fucking leaves him with the bill.
Yeah.
I would just immediately walk the fuck out. All right.
Then she just sits back and says, "Okay, have you considered a career in talking absolute shit to an audience of highly suggestible tweens whilst harassing feminists for no reason?"
And that's where he got the channel from. That's the whole
birth of Sargon of Akkad.
Oh my God, I love that. That's my headcanon now until forever. I love it. All right, let's go on.
Some people might not, but we certainly do. It doesn't have to be true for every single person. It is just true for the overwhelming majority, and that is frankly good enough. That is a high enough standard for which to hold the idea of sex as a real thing.
Also, literally, I'm sorry, like, he's saying so much stupid shit. He literally, like, now he's making the argument that, oh, just because, like, the majority of people believe that biological sex is, like, on a binary, just because he thinks that, like, the majority of, like, the average people, probably people who don't know anything about, like, the scientific consensus or people who don't study this shit for a living, you know? But since most people in society believe this, then that's the reason why it should be true. Which is just kind of asinine, right? Like, we don't base what we believe empirically based off of, like, what most people, like, want to personally believe on a particular subject, right? Like, we don't base, like, what we teach in math classes based on, like, what most people think or what most people feel is the best thing to teach about, like, whether 2 + 2 = 4, you know? Like, it's not like that's a democratic system, right? Like, it is, like, based on, like, it's based on empirical fact. It's not based on, like, what the majority of people just, like, casually want to believe about it, right?
He's very honest in that his feelings don't care about the facts.
Yeah.
I do appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, no, he's very, yeah, no, this is actually amazing. Let me see if I can you turn your volume up just a little bit? Someone is saying that.
Yes.
Okay.
How's that?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
If, as I said, imperfect. And so this has made J.K. Rowling the world's foremost transphobe. She is apparently now a hater of trans people because she does not accept that trans women are women. She believes that trans women are biologically male, and to be a woman, you need to be an adult human female.
Yeah, that's about right. Because nope, he has accurately surmised why she is in fact a transphobe. Not only because she believes those things, not only because she continues to believe those things even in the face of overwhelming criticism, but because she continues to peddle those beliefs to an audience of how many people are follow J.K. Rowling? Let's do some quick investigative journalism. Because I actually have forgotten how many people follow J.K. Rowling just on Twitter. She has 14.2 million people following her on Twitter. 14.2 million. Hold on. I can't remember.
That's twice the population of Scotland.
I actually can't remember.
More than twice. More than double the population.
Okay, he doesn't. All right, she doesn't have as much as Donald Trump. I was about to lose my shit. But yeah, literally, you said it was double the population of Scotland.
Yeah.
Fuck me. Yeah. So not only does she hold these beliefs, not only does she continue to believe them in the face of criticism and like being empirically wrong, but also continues to peddle them to a population twice the size of Scotland. Yeah, I feel like if that is not transphobe, I don't know what is. So yes, Sargon, you have correctly surmised why she faces this criticism.
So this means that the radical lefties really don't like her very much, and
the radical lefties. Also, I won't make a big deal out of this every time he says this because he's gonna say this a lot. It's just posturing, right? There's no argument, there's no substance. It's just posturing and trying to make the opposition look delegitimized. Yeah, that's all it is.
Recently, she released a new book. Now, I'm just going to say, I haven't read this book. I don't even know if it's out yet, actually. So I don't think anyone's had the chance other than a few critics. But her latest book, as Pink News inform us, is about a murderous cis man who dresses as a woman to kill his victims.
Big yikes. Yeah, I mean, like, I talked about it a little bit last week of Very Wild. Before we get into it, do you have any immediate thoughts about the book?
I've been reading it today.
You've been reading the book?
Yeah, because, well... It's going to come up. You know, the Blaire White videos.
Yeah.
Up, right?
Yeah.
And she very smugly says, anyone who criticizes this, I'm just going to ask, have you read it?
Oh, shit.
Which is very, I don't know, like, I mean, I applaud Blaire White for admitting that she'll never make fun of Muslims again until she reads the whole Quran. Or
shit!
Make fun of Marxists or communists shit! Unless she reads the entire works of Karl Marx. But
shit!
I started reading this morning, so I'm 40 chapters through. It's bad, but... yeah, we'll probably get into that as the progresses.
All right, well then, yeah, I won't probe you too much on it. But
I've had a bad fucking day just because I don't want to be haunted by Blaire White coming across this segment and asking us smugly if we've read the book.
Did you read the book?
Yeah, I read the book. I read the book.
Damn. All right. Well, shit. Then we are adequately prepared. Let's see what they got to say.
That's going to go down well with the alphabet people, isn't it? You can imagine how
the alphabet people, literally every single chance. Also, mind you, like any time that, like, I think he's tried to say that he's not like anti-LGBT, or like I think he's tried to like defend the claim that he's not like just bigoted against like LGBT people. But like if you're referring to like LGBT people as like the alphabet soup, new emote, y'all can do what you want with that. Yeah, y'all can do what you want. Yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, like if you refer to LGBT people as quote the alphabet soup, that doesn't really say a lot about like what your views of LGBT people are. Just personal hot take, you know. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like one of those things that kind of tells you a lot more about a person's mindset than anything else they might say about it directly.
The response to this is gone, but let's find out some details first. Again, we haven't read this book, so we're just going off what Pink News and their wonderful investigative LGBT plus investigative journalism has found. The new book finds her private detective protagonist Corriman Strike, that's a horrible name, investigating a cis male serial killer who dresses as a woman to kill his cis female victims, according to an early write-up. That's interesting, because, and again, I haven't read it, but what that says to me is not that trans people are the problem, because after all, it is a cis man attacking cis women. It appears, in fact, that trans people are not even involved in this conversation. But what it seems to be is a highlighting, perhaps a warning, of the possibility that there will be men who, males, I guess, cis males, which we would normally call men, who might well dress up as women because the rules will allow it in order to further their own.
Okay, hold on. We have some things to talk about, right? So first, right? There's like two questions in here. I talked about one with Vera, so I'm not going to like berate on it. Like I'm not going to like meander on it too much. Just because it doesn't directly talk about trans people doesn't mean that it doesn't like directly affect trans people, right? Like this is the same kind of argument that would say, for people who paid attention to my Twitter, last night Ellie, why are you fucking calling me? I was just about to... Hold on. Or actually, no,
Are you all right?
Wait, hold on. All right, you're not muted anymore. All right, say hi to the stream.
Hello, stream. How are you?
All right, there you go. All right, hey, I gotta go. I was actually just about to talk about Silence of the Lambs. So this
perfect.
is because we're talking about the J.K. Rowling book. So yeah, that's gonna.
Remember to put the lotion on his skin.
Oh my fucking god. All right, listen, we're gonna get into all the great quotes. Yeah, so all right, I'll talk to you later, all right?
Alright, talk later.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Random cameo. All right. Anyway, oh my god, chat's going nuts. Anyway, so for example, what? Yeah. Wait, what?
Oh, wow.
No. Yeah, no, that was not. Anyway, so the story, that was like perfect timing because I was gonna talk about like last night she was over and we were watching Silence of the Lambs, and it's literally it's the same thing as this book, right? Like in the movie, they actually go out of their way to specify that Buffalo Bill, the person, like mind you, for people who haven't seen the movie, basically the TLDR is that the movie is about this serial killer who the movie will specify is not a real transvestite because it's from the 90s, right? So it didn't like transsexual wasn't even used back then. It was the transvestite. But they said that he wasn't a real transvestite because he tried to use what do you call it? Because he tried to he was just like trying to make his body into something that it wasn't because he was upset with his body. Effectively, like the like Hannibal Lecter, the person who conveys this information, is like the original True Scum. If you take it to its logical extreme, I don't know. It's kind of funny to look at it nowadays, with like the whole trans discourse in perspective. But basically, like the movie Buffalo Bill, serial killer goes around killing cis women to peel their skin to make a skin suit so that he can wear it and look like a woman. Specifically, I think his mother or something. The movie does not technically portray him as a trans person. In fact, the movie like specifically goes out of the way to say the opposite. But because of two things, right? A, as pointed out by Vera Wild, the fact that there are no like counterbalancing trans characters to sort of indicate to the audience who probably doesn't know much about the subject what a actual trans person looks like. And B, the fact that the audience probably doesn't really understand the difference fully and will just look at this scary psychopath man trying to be a woman and will associate that with any other like trans person, right? Like that's the problem with this book, you know? Like the problem with this book in particular is that yeah, it doesn't technically talk about like trans people, but like it's portraying like a cis man or what someone might perceive as a cis man who dresses as a woman to try and harass and kill women, right? J.K. Rowling would probably look at like a lot of non-passing trans women and identify them with this category, right? So she's essentially just like, even though she's not like technically like directly calling out trans people, she's fear mongering. She's doing the same thing that people have done with like these kinds of films with this trope for like years upon years. And it's had like demonstrably terrible effects on the lives of trans people. So this isn't anything new, but to say that like just because it doesn't like specifically talk about trans people, it won't negatively affect them or it doesn't target them, that's complete bullshit.
Well, it's almost like men who dress up as women to go and murder cis women in bathrooms and trans people are the same thing if you're a transphobe.
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't know the difference. So that's it's not that like a normal person reading that would necessarily see the killer as a trans person, but every transphobe would.
Yeah. No, that's exactly
and also,
right.
Just the idea of men dressing up as women to go into bathrooms to kill women is just that is the number one fear story for transphobes.
And let's be
despite
clear,
there being no evidence for it.
Yeah. There's actually like some studies on this, right? So to go over this like very briefly, are concerns of trans predators in bathrooms, changing rooms, etc., empirically valid? So like there's a lot of empiric study on this. In 2018, a study was published in the Journal of Sexuality Research and Social Policy which discussed how legislation, regulations, basically like how a lot of recent regulation, which has promoted things like trans bathroom bills, have been based on fears about like trans predators invading bathroom spaces. But what they found was no empirical evidence that's been gathered to test such laws' effects, and that the study provides evidence that fears of increased safety and privacy violations as a result of non-discrimination laws are not empirically grounded. There's no evidence that these kinds of laws and the fears that they're based off of, that trans predators are going to invade women's spaces and like harass or rape them, there's no evidence to support it, right? Additionally, according to Rain, most rapes and sexual assaults, 8 out of 10, are committed by someone the victim knew, not random men and women claiming to be transgender going into bathrooms. And additionally, according to a study conducted by the British National Centre for Social Research, a vast majority of cis women are not, in fact, concerned with which facilities transgender people use. They found that 72% of women said that they were either very or quite comfortable with a transgender woman using a female toilet, right? So not only are the fears not validated whatsoever, right? Like we're talking about like one or two crazy one-off instances out of like the vast majority of when trans people use the restrooms. But most people just don't care, right? And the people who say that they care are just like the vast minority. So it's a stupid fear, both because most people don't share it and it's not validated. So yeah, like it's just kind of astounding that I keep hearing the same argument over and over and over again when it's just fear mongering, right? And it's the same thing that we're seeing from here. Like all that this is fear mongering.
As far as I remember reading, the one thing that does increase the chances of people getting assaulted is if you put trans women in men's bathrooms.
Oh shit! You're absolutely right. Also, there have been studies, and I got some in my research document now. I'm working on a new update, but there's actually been studies that, like, if we want to talk about like the trans prison argument, that like trans women are disproportionately victims of assaults and rapes in prisons, right? Which is just kind of is another statistic that goes to show that like not only are trans women and trans people in general, not the perpetrators of these kind of crimes, but usually they're the victims of it, right? Which is really sad because like this kind of rhetoric being spread around literally goes to like harm them more, harm us more. Rip. All right, we meander. We have to get through. We have to keep a steady time. So let's keep going.
Horrific agenda. This is something perhaps to be aware of rather than to be an open condemnation of trans people if you were to take a charitable reading. And again, that is if what we're being told is actually accurate. But the first review for Troubled Blood describes it as a book whose moral seems to be never trust a man in a dress. What's interesting is the first review is from The Telegraph, and that's where they're getting this from. And The Telegraph is meant to be a conservative publication, or at least not a radical left-wing one. So it's interesting how this is the result. But I read this article, and it's like 4 paragraphs long, and it's a description, and it doesn't actually say this in the article, or at least if it did, I missed it. But this was enough red meat for the LGBT lobby and their activists. And this really did upset a few people on Twitter, as you might imagine. I mean, one of the replies, transphobic Silence of the Lambs tropes, how original.
I think we're just going to go into examples. I'm not sure how much I want to meander on this, because we've already kind of talked about like why it's bad. And he's just going to like respond to, I guess, like some one-off instances of why it's not bad. I want to get, so we can listen for like another minute or two, but I really want to get to the, like, we're already like 40 minutes into the hour. So I want to get to the main point that I want to get to is the Blaire White video. So we'll listen for about a minute more. And if he's just talking about like responses on Twitter, then I think we've already responded enough to him sufficiently to talk about something else. So yeah, we'll listen a little bit more.
I don't recall seeing a film where a man dressed up as a woman to go and kill other women. Like, I mean, I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm just saying I haven't seen them. And what I'm trying to say when I say that is they don't seem very common to me. This actually seems to be a fairly new trope and a fairly not relevant.
Wait. We're literally, oh my god, this person is literally citing Silence of the Lambs. Holy shit. They say it's not a new trope. Hold on. Hey, actually, people in chat, if you would, for those of you who are not aware, Corvidae, another really cool lefty YouTuber, another video essayist, actually made a video about, I believe it's called Jessica Yaniv and the Trans Predator Trope, which goes into the entire history of how this has been peddled by like tons of movies, publications, so on. Like essentially going back to Christine Jorgensen, who kind of like set all of this off initially. The TLDR is that like Christine Jorgensen back in 50s, first like very public trans woman, did a transition, looked like very beautiful by conventional standards back then. So like society was like largely fine with it. It was kind of like a fascination, like, oh my god, this blonde beauty used to be a guy. Oh my god, it's so cool. But then when people actually realized that this challenged a lot of like conventional norms about like societal views of gender, people got like crazy against it, and she was like very quickly turned from like this national icon into someone like hated by everyone, right? And that's kind of what birthed a lot of the trans predator kind of movies that we've seen ever since then, right? Including probably this. I mean, like this book is kind of the natural culmination of it, right? But yeah, so people who want to know more, because I won't dwell on it too much, but this point is just like wrong. Like this is not a new this is not a new trend, right? But this is like it goes back like all the way into the 50s, you know? Yeah, watch Corvidae's video for more information.
Just for what it's worth, there is nothing new in this book. Like everything in it is a very done trope.
Yeah. Actually, so we're 40 minutes in. I feel like that's all I really want to talk about Sargon, because I feel like we've responded to like the substantive arguments. Like the point I want to make is not necessarily to go through and debunk every single little thing that Sargon says, because like, I mean, like I've done it before, right? Like everything that he says is fucking wrong. What I think is more interesting to me is how Blaire White's views have like a very stark overlap with someone who, mind you, just made a lot of arguments to delegitimize the idea that trans women are women, that Blaire White is in fact a woman, right? And so I kind of want to like explore this idea, because I know that Blaire White has made the argument before, and mind you, here's the secret intel. All right, here's the secret intel. I cannot say the source, but here's the secret intel. All right, and I am taking this at face value.
Holy shit.
The secret intel is that Blaire fundamentally says a lot of things that she does because she has the goal of trying to normalize trans people in society. All right, that's the goal. And she might not necessarily believe all the things that she says. Now, that doesn't really change necessarily like how I respond to it, because I don't care so much about what she internally believes, because if she's peddling wrong ideas, I'm going to call them out. But in the instance where hypothetically Blaire ends up watching this in the future, Blaire, we're gonna look at your video. All right, there's a chance that you will watch this, as I have been told by. Anyway, there's a chance that you'll watch this, and I really just want you to consider the fact that literally you are spreading arguments, or you might be spreading arguments either very close or the exact same as someone who is arguing against the validity of your person. And if your goal is to try and normalize trans people in society, spreading these arguments is literally going antithetical to what you're trying to accomplish. All right? Now I'm going to criticize them, and some of them might be really fucking bad, but understand that, like, if what you're trying to do is to help trans people, this is not the way to do it. With that being said, let's go ahead.
Well, what I would like is for people to not buy this book.
You haven't read the book, have you?
No.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I know the amount of
too fast.
This video is a little bit obnoxious. This is actually post-birthday decorations. I had a surprise party. I turned 27 a few days ago, which is about 80 in tranny years, but we won't talk about that. So I genuinely cannot believe I'm here making a third J.K. Rowling video. If there's been...
I mean, probably because it's a very popular topic. And also because, like, I don't know, J.K. Rowling, like, side note, just, like, this doesn't really necessarily go to the argument. She's just one of those people that's occupied such a large headspace in me. And some people say, like, she's living in my head rent-free. And I'd be like, well, I mean, like, when she literally, like, goes on a giant tirade about, like, how, you know, trans people, biological sex and all that, and then releases this giant bomb that she's releasing this giant transphobic book, yeah, it's gonna occupy a decent amount of headspace in me, as I think it does for pretty much, like, any trans person who wants to live in, like, a society that doesn't, like, constantly harass them. So I wish that wasn't the case, but yeah, no, Blaire, it's not surprising.
Been one
It's
person.
fascinating, if nothing else.
It is really fascinating. Yeah, no, I mean, like, again, I've said this before. She could have gone, like, the rest of her life and been beloved by, like, every single person. She could have, like, kept this all to herself and just, like, relied on the fact that she wrote, like, a halfway decent, like, set of books. And a lot of people really, like looked up to her as, like, this goddess for it. And she could have gone the rest of her life and been, like, this beloved character. And probably throughout the rest of the time and, like, this really influential author. And she kind of just blew all of it, right? Like, she just collectively blew all of it. Which is amazing to me, but yeah, I don't know. I am no psychiatrist, so I won't speculate into like her the mental bases for why beyond like what could be reasonably surmised.
Pissed off the trans community more than anyone else on the planet. J.K. Rowling has taken that spot. This is the third transphobic controversy that the author has found herself in. This time it's not about any tweets that may or may not be out of context we can go back and forth about. This is not about who she's following on Twitter, as if that's ever a valid reason to cancel someone. Anyways, this time everyone is up in arms about her new book being released called Troubled Blood. And just a heads up, I read the book. I spent the last 12 hours reading it as an ebook. And so the opinions you're going to hear today are from someone who is not just, on Twitter hearing what other people have to say and hopping on a bandwagon. This is because I read the book. Now people are calling the book transphobic because of this, because it has a character who is a cis man who dresses as a woman when killing his victim. So right off the bat, I'm wondering what a cis man wearing a wig has to do with me as a trans woman and why I'm supposed to be outraged by the inclusion of this type of character in the book, but we'll get
Okay, so I won't belabor this point, both because we're going on time and because, we've already talked about it. I refer this back to the earlier conversation. The TLDR, just because it doesn't technically include the term trans doesn't mean that this isn't like objectively targeted at trans people, right? If what the book is talking about is what other people might perceive as, quote, a man in a dress, then like, especially if we're talking about non-passing trans people, that's going to especially fearmonger against them. But basically, like, most people will not be able to most people who don't know about trans issues aren't going to be able to tell the difference. And so it's going to effectively like negatively harm trans people in the same way that like Silence of the Lambs and a whole bunch of other similar books movies and books have throughout the course of recent history.
into that. Now, people are up in arms. People are burning the book. Let's start with that.
You're not a dick.
Get out of here, ad.
You're
Fuck
a
you.
man. Most name brand bars and body washes.
That's very ironic.
I know. Wait, what did it say? I wasn't paying attention to it.
It just said you're a man.
Wait, are you fucking serious?
Smashing a plate and saying you're a man.
Oh my god, that's actually hilarious. Very ironic.
I mean, I hate to be the bearer of bad news to those that are going and buying the book and burning it. The money is still in her account. I have never, for the life of me, understood people who...
Actually, I agree with this point. Like, there's really no reason to burn the book. I mean, like, you can symbolically, but, like, it's kind of the same thing as, like, I don't know, for people who have seen, like, H-Bomber Guy's Woke Brands video, where, like, Nike... Or I think there's like some like blender company or some like item company which announced that it had like a woke take, and a bunch of people who were like super reactionary went out and like destroyed their whatevers. What I can't remember like the specific thing. It was like some kind of household appliance, but like people went out and destroyed them. Well, people were likely still going to go buy another one because they were just like things that either people really wanted or needed. So like yeah. Oh, and the companies already had the money, right? It's not like it was doing anything to them. So like. I don't know. I talked to Vera Wild about this. If you want to enjoy the book, I think that you can. If you want to enjoy the books, I think that you can. I don't know. I don't agree with necessarily burning them, but you know, do what you want. Just understand that like, yeah, J.K. Rowling already has your money. Just don't buy any more.
Because they're mad about a product or the creator of a product, go and buy the product just to destroy it on camera for clout. That's a little dumb. A lot of dumb. Also, the irony is not lost on me that I remember growing up when the books were still coming out, her original Harry Potter books, I'm sorry. And it's interesting because people have always burned her books. I am old enough to remember, back to me being old, that about 15 years ago, they were burning Harry Potter books.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it used to be because, like, it was like conservative Christians. Like, I'm familiar with some of the texts. Like, I used to be around a bunch of Christians who, like, really hated, like, J.K. Rowling's books before. It's actually interesting how she's kind of flipped a 180, right? She used to be hated by, like, reactionary, Christians who hated it because like they're like or fundamentalist Christians who focus on like there's like some passage in the Old Testament, I think in Deuteronomy, that talks about like burning witches or killing witches, and basically that's why a lot of them did. We could have a whole talk about like how a lot of fundamentalist Christians tend to cherry pick scripture, but you know that's not the subject of this. But yeah, it's like you're talking about like a very different group of people before, you know, like very different kinds of book burnings.
Now, that was the religious, fundamental people who believed that it was witchcraft and
oh, shit.
Evil and teaching children to be evil.
Hey.
So, the ultimate irony of things being so 180'd in recent...
All right, hey, like credit where credit is due.
Years that it's now the woke brigade burning books. It's like, we had to take note of that. Along with burning her books, the hashtag rest in peace JK Rowling was trending on Twitter because what way to say, hey, trans people are not violent psychopaths than making a hashtag trend calling for the death of an author. I think that's effective activism, don't you? So honestly, we need to deep dive this one. But first, shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Surfshark.
Nope.
Pictures are
Nope.
This new transphobic book by JK.
All right.
But on to the video. Okay, I'm gonna keep this super simple about this new transphobic book by JK Rowling. And by the way, the book was part of a series. I don't know how many came before it, but yeah. I didn't like the book, but that is not because it has anything to do with being transphobic or anything to do with transgender people in any capacity at all, by the way. If
Again, I refer back to my earlier discussion.
you only pay attention to the mob online and to social media and to people who are so desperate to attack JK Rowling, you would think this book is literally like a PSA against trans people, that it's a book that paints trans people as evil, as killers, etc. But no honest person who has actually read the book, I mean really read it, not just reacted to a description or reacted to whatever, if you've actually seen it, there's no way you could feel that way.
Hey, Lonerbox, you read the book, right?
Yeah.
So, this might be a good place to talk about. So what are your sort of takes on the book, right? Like, what are so can you give me like the TLDR? Because she's saying that no person who has read the book, no reasonable person who's read the book, could come away with the perception that it's transphobic. Yeah. So can I get like your TLDR?
As someone who's read the book, Blaire White, we can join the book club. Yeah, it's the entire book, like the subtext of it. Like, I think Blaire White's about to mention that the whole the actual thing with the killer being a cross-dresser and everything just it comes in like one page at the end, but the whole subtext of the book is about women getting hurt by men. So the main female detective, Robin, is a divorcee because of infidelity. And then she's constantly dealing with unwanted male attention. There's a scene where one of the new recruits to the detective agency sends her a dick pic. There's the male detective who ends up kind of falling for the female detective. He opens up in a bar talking to some misogynist who's rambling about one night stands with women. Like it's all the way throughout. There's this kind of like women getting hurt by men story. And if you're a transphobe, then trans people existing is women getting hurt by men. So
Yeah.
I mean,
so basically,
fair,
if I could understand, right, because the posturing, right, because especially like J.K. Rowling has expressed these views, right, and so the understanding, like the subtext of the book is basically, like if you don't hold like the beliefs that J.K. Rowling does, or that a lot of people who might not otherwise know better do, then it might not make the book as bad. But because J.K. Rowling has expressed beliefs similar to, or can, or just to the effect of either A, that trans women are men, or B, or B, that trans men are just women, usually like lesbian women, who have been harmed by like the trans agenda, right? Then basically all of transphobia, especially like TERF kind of transphobia, is baked into this idea of men harming women, right? And so if the subtext of the book is men harming women, then it helps promote those ideas, right? Like those explicitly transphobic ideas. Is that kind of
not
like...
only that, but that's all. Yeah, and J.K. Rowling's done this before. In 2014, in the same series, she wrote a book called what was it, The Silkworm, which is when I think it's a murderer who is dressed as a woman in a burqa, in a full hijab.
Really?
Yeah, and I think something about feeding, like they feed the victim a halal takeaway or something. Yeah, it's like she's done this before. And I think it's either Blaire White or Sargon, I can't remember. One of them lies about saying that the killer is only using the dress as a means to sneak into the women's bathroom, and that's it. It's nothing to do with their character. But then throughout, after it skips all the weird wine mum shit about tarot and star signs, that's how they catch the killer. They go into how the killer is basically just this complete stereotype of like an abused boy who started with a habit of watching girls through his bedroom window and then stealing their underwear and using it to get off sexually. So
gotcha.
Yeah, it's not just a cis man dressing up to
it's feeding into like the trans predator trope is what it's doing.
Yeah, it's completely, yeah.
Yeah, like basically the idea that there are like perverted, like crazy cis men who appropriate the label of trans, or like this hashtag woke culture to try and like commit these kinds of actions against cis women. But again, like going back to what we were discussing earlier, like these beliefs are so far-fetched, like there's no evidence for them. The best that you will ever find is like one-off pieces of anecdotal evidence. And like, yeah, there's going to be some fucking crazy people out there, right? But what this is doing is it's normalizing the idea that this is a lot bigger of a problem than other people than it actually is. And it kind of normalizes, the belief that there needs to be action taken against them, right? Like this is the reason why a lot of people were able to get support for the trans bathroom bills, a couple of years ago, right? And they only, in the US, a lot of Republicans only moved away after it was leaked that not only did they not have any evidence to be able to back it up, but that they literally just tried spreading it on the basis of fear mongering, right? Like once that came out, they basically just kind of dropped the argument because a lot of people realized that it was just completely full of shit, right? But this is kind of doing the same thing here that Republicans were doing back then. That's been done for like a very long time. Is it's like fear mongering and spreading the idea that this is like a problem when it really just isn't.
True.
Yeah.
I think I've got one more. I think I really hate this thing that she's doing by saying that because it's only mentioned in one passage and all that in a 900-page book.
Yeah.
Then but that's kind of like, I don't know, if Joseph Goebbels did like a speech and it was an hour long and 59 minutes of it was just some boring like law and order and I don't know, some shit about like Volkswagens. But then by the end, or like somewhere in the middle, he just says, by the way, there's an unknown international cabal that's meddling with international finances and starting revolutions in Russia and using immigration to outbirth the locals. Then, yeah, of course, you're going to draw attention to that bit, And
yeah.
I think that's kind of what Joling is doing in this book.
Yeah. So we're coming up on the hour, so I kind of want to like summarize because I think we've essentially responded to, and like you watch the videos, like the main point that I want to get through, right? Because obviously, like, the criticisms that we've discussed this, so far on the books, and like both Sargon's and Blaire's positions on the book, like all of those are incorporated into this idea. But like the main thing that I kind of want to get at, I think that's sort of the takeaway, because I mean, like, JK Rowling transphobic? Yeah, no fucking shit. Like the arguments to defend her just kind of flop on her face. But I think it's really interesting when you have someone like Blaire who continuously makes the argument to justify like the kind of content that she puts out on the basis that, oh, well, I'm just trying to help trans people integrate into normal society. But like, she's literally making the same kind of arguments to defend a very blatant transphobic person doing transphobic things as someone who literally continuously argues against her. Even in the video that we just looked again, like today, right? Like, she's making the same kind of arguments that Sargon did. And Sargon in that video argued, made arguments that would invalidate Blaire's identity, right? And I think that like there's I think it's pretty bad when you are like making the same kind of arguments as someone who is like literally in the same breath arguing against the validity of your personhood, like it's not exactly a kind of a strategic rhetoric decision to basically be making the same. It would be as if you have like it would be as if you had like a black person trying to argue who wants to like normalize like black acceptance in society by making the same kind of arguments as like race realists, right? Like it's completely like, I should say that would be completely unreasonable. But I mean, I don't know. There are plenty of black conservatives who make that kind of an argument. So actually, I'm getting very depressed as I'm trying to make that analogy to point out how absurd the logic is. But yeah, I don't know. Do you have any final thoughts on the book, the videos that we've watched so far?
Yeah, it's obvious, and I think they both know it is.
Yeah,
like there's no, I don't like, yeah. I've noticed in passing, like every now and then, whether it's on Twitter and all that, these people understand dog whistles when it's happening to them, and they'll call it and they'll point it out.
Oh, so, interesting. So do you have an example, just off the top of your head?
Well, yeah, personally, because like when I made a video about Count Dankula and I started it with this little spiel about I spoke about the British National Party, who are like the most racist party in the country, knowing that they've got nothing to do with him. So I just spoke about them for the beginning, then said, "Oh, on an unrelated note, we're going to talk about Candancula."
I remember
And
that.
That's because I've seen him defending like Sargon's "I wouldn't even rape you" comment, and saying, "Oh, well, he's saying he wouldn't." It's an anti-rape joke, and then so I just thought, if I do the same thing to him, is he going to fall for it? And he did. He got like really pissed off, and
Oh,
then
he
went
got
on this
super
whole
pissed off.
tirade about why he's actually not a fascist, even though
So yeah, so a lot of
technically
these
didn't
people,
say he was,
yeah, so a lot of these people like understand dog whistles, right? Like they should be able to reasonably look at this and understand like it's a dog whistle. It's a dog whistle for transphobia. I don't know. I have to wonder. I'm pretty sure that like I'm almost like I am basically certain that Sargon is a bad faith actor. Blaire, I mean, like based on like again, like I don't know, Blaire. If you happen to watch this in the future, if you ever want to talk to me, let's make it happen, girl. But like if you are like to understand that if you are saying these things, like if you're like either you're expressing these things and you believe them and you're wrong, for the reasons that we've discussed so far, or you're saying these things and you don't believe them and you're just kind of like saying these things to try and further an agenda. I hate to tell you, girl, but that's grifting. That's like definitionally grifting, actually. Like if you Google grifting right now, I'm pretty sure that the first thing will come up will be maintaining a false belief for the purpose of furthering a personal gain, which is not good. So get your shit together. If you ever want to talk, then I'm open to it. But otherwise, yeah, I don't know. This is very bad. Which is I guess par for the course. But I don't know. I'm here for the Blaire redemption arc if it happens. But I don't know.
She also has to stop saying anything at all about modern gender theory until she reads Judith Butler.
Oh shit! Yeah. No, that would be amazing.
That's if she's read it.
Yeah, like I have to maintain. I don't know. I'm not holding my breath, but hey, I've been surprised before. I've been very surprised before. So I don't know. Those are my thoughts. Thank you so much for coming on. By the way, I think we're at the hour, so I really appreciate it. Do you want to shout yourself out and tell the audience who you are and where to find you and all that good stuff?
Yeah, why not? Thanks a lot for having me, by the way. It's been fun.
Yeah, no problem.
It's Lonerbox, YouTube, Twitter, all that shit. If you can't remember it, just think of a loner that's in a box. I don't know.
We got you. All right, we've got you. Yeah, we've got your YouTube in chat. So yeah, all right, awesome. Yeah. I love my community is like on top of this shit. I love it. Well, hey, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll talk to you later. All right.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, see you.
Bye.
Bye.